Power is neither granted by right nor sustained by hope. It is engineered through absolute discipline, strategic calculation, and unyielding self-mastery. To understand silence as ultimate power, one must first strip away the comforting lies that weak men tell themselves. Most human beings live in a state of quiet delusion. They believe that if they are gentle, fair, and accommodating, the world will reward them with loyalty and respect. But history teaches a far harsher truth. Men respond not to benevolence, but to strength. They respect boundaries that carry consequences, and they disregard those that exist only in rhetoric. When you analyze human nature as it truly is, not as idealists wish it to be, you discover that every social interaction is a subtle negotiation of rank and influence. People are constantly probing your defenses. They observe how quickly you respond to slight disrespect, whether you rush to justify your actions, and whether your calm stems from deep inner confidence or mere cowardice. If you reveal vulnerability without purpose, if you react with hasty anger or needy explanation, you invite further encroachment. Sovereignty over oneself is the foundational prerequisite for any influence over others. He who cannot govern his own tongue, his own impulses, and his own emotional climate will inevitably become an instrument used by those who can. Throughout my years observing the rise and fall of princes, dukes, and statesmen, the single constant was this: those who mastered silence as ultimate power endured, while those who trusted in raw luck or superficial popularity were consumed. Consider what I observed when I served as an envoy for Florence. I remember clearly a negotiation with a prominent figure framed in the context of a lord associated with courts of Florence. This was a man of noble birth, possessing vast estates and a formidable garrison. Yet he suffered from a fatal flaw. He could not resist the urge to display his thoughts to every courtier who flattered him. Whenever an alliance faltered or a rival issued a vague rumor, this lord would convene his council in public distress, explaining his fears and declaring his intentions to all who would listen. He believed that by being transparent, he would earn the sympathy and trust of his allies. Instead, he handed his adversaries a complete roadmap of his anxieties. His rivals did not offer aid. They measured his hesitation. They saw precisely where his confidence fractured and where his supplies ran short. When the critical hour arrived, his supposed allies did not defend him. They quietly carved up his lands among themselves. His downfall was not engineered on the battlefield. It was sealed months prior in his own reception chambers through his inability to maintain strategic reserve. Contrast this foolish openness with the conduct of those who truly understand power. A true strategist operates like a deep well. Men may peer into the waters, but they can never measure the depth. When you speak less than necessary, every word you utter carries weighted significance. When your intentions remain veiled, rivals spend their energy attempting to decipher your motives rather than plotting your downfall. The psychological trap that catches most men is the craving for immediate validation. We live in an era where men feel an agonizing urge to be understood, to be liked, and to have their opinions validated by their peers. This craving is a tether by which others can lead you wherever they wish. If your peace of mind depends on the applause of the crowd or the approval of your associates, you have surrendered your independence. A man who requires external praise is easily manipulated. Flatter him, and he yields. Criticize him, and he panics. He becomes predictable, and in the arena of strategy, predictability is fatal. To cultivate true dominance regarding silence as ultimate power, you must develop a cold, analytical detachment toward both praise and condemnation. View criticism not as a personal wound, but as raw intelligence regarding the motives and posture of the speaker. When someone attempts to provoke you, recognize that their provocation is a test designed to shatter your composure. If you react instantly with heat and indignation, you have yielded control. But if you absorb their words with cold indifference, watching them as a physician observes a patient, the power dynamic instantly shifts in your favor. He who controls his emotional response controls the room. Silence in the face of provocation is not weakness. It is a wall against which the adversary's emotional energy exhausts itself. Let us examine another historical lesson from the records of statecraft. During my time observing military captains and political factions, I recall a second incident framed around courts of Florence. Two rival captains sought command of a key fortress. The first captain was boisterous, constantly boasting of his past victories and demanding immediate allegiance from his lieutenants. He rewarded those who praised him and punished those who questioned his authority. The second captain spoke rarely. He observed his officers in quiet silence, noting who was disciplined, who was greedy, and who was prone to panic under pressure. He made no grand declarations and made no unnecessary promises. When dissension arose among the troops, the first captain attempted to crush it with loud threats, which only deepened the hatred of his men. The second captain acted with surgical precision. He identified the two primary instigators, removed them swiftly without public spectacle, and rewarded the competent silent soldiers. When battle finally came, the first captain's lines broke because his men held no genuine respect for his bluster. The second captain's men stood unshakable, knowing that their commander was deliberate, observant, and unwavering. This illustrates a fundamental maxim. Authority is not maintained by noise, but by certainty. True power does not shout. It operates with quiet, irresistible weight. When you cultivate this posture, men instinctively adjust their behavior in your presence. They hesitate before offering insolence, and they think twice before breaking faith. As you move through the world, remember that your life is your ultimate principality. You must guard its borders with the same vigilance that a prince guards his citadel. Every boundary you set must be firm, explicit, and defended without hesitation. If you permit small infractions, a broken promise here, a subtle insult there, a piece of disrespect passed off as a joke, you teach people that your territory is open for conquest. Minor insolence, if left unaddressed, expands into open insubordination. You do not need to unleash fury. Fury is the mark of a weak man trying to appear strong. You simply need to enforce consequences with cold, quiet finality. Mastering silence as ultimate power requires you to make a permanent commitment to self-discipline. Discipline is not a temporary exertion. It is a lifestyle, a perpetual state of readiness. It is the decision to choose long-term strategic victory over short-term emotional relief. It is the resolve to hold your position when others panic, to remain silent when others babble, and to execute your plans with relentless persistence. He who masters himself becomes an anchor in a storm. While others are swept away by temporary emotions, popular trends, and cheap provocations, the disciplined mind stands sovereign, unmovable, and victorious. Look upon the world not as you wish it were, but as it truly is. Strip away illusion, master your emotions, defend your boundaries, and move with strategic purpose. Remember this closing lesson. Respect is never given to those who beg for it, nor to those who seek to appease everyone. Respect is reserved for the sovereign mind that commands itself, guards its purpose, and refuses to be moved. The world is watching. Stand firm, act with calculated wisdom, and govern your destiny with absolute resolve. Let us go deeper into this reality. When you examine the mechanics of human influence, you discover that men are governed by habit and impression far more than by logic. A man who consistently displays calm authority creates a psychological expectation in the minds of others. People begin to assume that his silence conceals deep knowledge, that his reserve hides vast strength, and that his decisions are backed by unyielding determination. Conversely, a man who acts impulsively destroys his own aura. Once others realize that you can be provoked by simple words, they hold the key to your emotional state. They can make you angry, anxious, or defensive at will. You become a puppet dancing on strings held by rivals, critics, and casual observers. To cut those strings permanently, you must cultivate an internal sanctuary, a core of absolute stillness that no external event can shake. In every domain of life, whether in statecraft, commerce, or personal relations, the highest form of power is self-containment. He who contains himself cannot be contained by others. He who controls his attention controls his destiny. Walk through life with your eyes open, your tongue guarded, your purpose fixed, and your mind sovereign.